Eat shit and die, Ricky!
Eat shit and live, Bill.
That's such a classic line. It's time for another episode of Damien Ruins Horror Movies. My name is Damien. As usual, this episode is brought to you by Cool Dude Inc. Click the link in the notes and go make yourself look good. But before we get started, we're going to kick it off with the Whiskey Bats, who you can find on Spotify, iTunes, and if you click the link in the notes, you'll see the link to their YouTube channel. Tonight's movie is the 1983 classic Sleepaway Camp, directed by Robert Hiltzik. It opens with a trip to the lake gone wrong, to put it mildly. A bizarre boating accident kills a dad and his child, leaving one behind. 8 years later, Ricky and his cousin Angela are going to summer camp, and his creepy Perry Farrell-looking mom has taken care of the physicals. Nothing weird about that. I mean, she is a doctor after all. But what's up with her hands? And more importantly, I thought a boy survived the boating accident we saw in the opening. At the camp, the creepy head chef is checking out all the new fresh chickens in baldies. The guy's clearly a pedophile. But all the other cooks kind of blow it off like it's no big deal. He just likes touching kids, you know? You gotta wonder about grown men that volunteer to work summer camps with little kids in the first place. Like, oh, me, I'll do it. What? Artie tries to rape Angela in the walk-in fridge, or whatever the back room of the kitchen is, but he gets caught by Ricky. And Ricky and Angela both come running out of the walk-in fridge, and then Artie follows, adjusting his belt, and all the cooks once again just look the other way. Even boss man Mel doesn't question it. If Artie would have been wearing Ronnie's shorts, it would have been a dead giveaway what was going on in there.
Oh, shit!
And what's up with all the fly traps in the kitchen? That's gross. Later that day, Artie has a ridiculously large pot to boil corn on the cob with. It's so tall he's got to get a step stool to reach the top, and when he climbs up there all alone in the kitchen, somebody jerks the stool out from under him, causing the pot to spill, drenching him with boiling hot water. Needless to say, he can no longer work, but boss man Mel, he covers it up. He says, don't let anybody know about this. Just tell everybody you found another job. And then he promotes the other cooks and gives all of them a nice raise. Not 100% sure, but this film might be the origin of the airborne sit-up.
Ah, the airborne sit-up, classic gag. That's where you take a towel and you rub it gently over somebody's eyes, convincing him that after you remove the towel, it will be impossible for him to do a sit-up. And then when he does, you have one of your other friends standing just in front of him, squatted over, bare ass, so that when you remove the towel, he doesn't have time to see. He just sits right up and plants his face right in the other guy's butt crack. Now, on one hand, you got a guy who unwillingly put his face in another guy's butt crack, but on the other hand, you got a guy who volunteered to let another dude motorboat his butt cheeks. Back in high school, when the band took a trip to Florida, my brother and his friends did this to a girl. And for the rest of the year, everybody called her Butt Nose.
This camp's weird because it's like all ages. Angela is a freak, and everybody talks shit to her. Ricky is constantly having to get in fights to defend her. Judy, Ricky's love interest from the previous summer, and the counselor Meg are the worst. But whenever somebody talks to Angela, she just sits there with that blank look on her face, not responding to anybody. But after a while, it gets to the point where even I want to slap the shit out of her. But meanwhile, boss man Mel just watches the whole thing happen. The bullying totally goes unnoticed. Ricky's friend Paul starts to take a liking to Angela, and they kind of get together. And she starts to act more and more normal, like a regular little girl. He even gets her to make out with him. But then she has a flashback of when she was young, and she saw her dad in bed making out with a dude. But then there's Judy. What would we call the opposite of a final girl? You know, the narcissist that always has to have her way. She's such a little bitch, she somehow even gets Meg to take her side, and Meg's like way older. I don't think Meg would have even given a shit about Angela if it wasn't for Judy. During Capture the Flag, Judy dicknaps Paul and gets her to make out with him in the woods, and Angela catches them. Paul, you fucking piece of shit. You cheated on your best friend's cousin with your best friend's girl?
Oh, shit!
The victims all seem to recognize their killer. And it isn't until Mel's business is in trouble that he starts putting two and two together. Ricky's the killer, and he's totally doing it to spite me. But once he's cock-blocked by Meg's death, that's the final straw. Which was weird, because Meg was going to hook up with Mel. What is up with that? I really wish she wouldn't have gotten killed when she did, because I wanted to see where this date was going to go. She was going to have dinner with them. Did she have a thing for Mel? Was she like into Mel and his camp owner prestige? Well, I guess we'll never know. Eddie, the counselor, takes some kids out on, I don't know, to go camping in the middle of the forest with no tents, but just in sleeping bags. But a couple of them want to go back. So he takes a couple of them back, leaving the other ones. And when he comes back, he sees that they've been slaughtered. Now that they know for sure there's a killer, the counselors all team together. And one by one, they start finding bodies. Even the cops with them. And what is up with his mustache? Like he didn't know he had more scenes to do, and the idea of the guy shaving would have just totally messed up the continuity of this film. Eventually they find Angela down at the beach, sitting with Paul's head in her lap. This is when they find out that Angela's the killer. More like Mangela.
Oh, shit.
She's sitting naked with Paul's head in her lap, and when she stands up, they see that Paul's head is no longer attached to his body. And she has a boy's body. Her face kind of looks photoshopped on, or whatever they called it back then. Her mouth is wide open, and there's a weird growling sound. That whole moment is so weird and confusing that you don't really notice how fake it looks. It lasts just a moment and forever at the same time. Okay, so in the beginning, at the lake, there's a little girl and a little boy, and they're both with their dad. Peter, the little boy, being the survivor. And he goes to live with his Aunt Martha. But Aunt Martha already has a son, Ricky. And she's always wanted a little girl. And what's up with Aunt Martha? She kind of looks like she was a dude who... Was she a dude who turned herself into a woman, and now she's turning little boys into little girls to kind of normalize her deal? Much like Carrie, this is a story of bullying where the victim has finally had enough. And how come these camp directors were not aware of any of Peter/Angela's earlier childhood trauma? Oh, I know why. It's because it was the 80s and we didn't give a shit back then. It was sink or swim. I'm going to send you to camp with a bunch of pedophiles and bullies. You'll thank me later. The badass award goes to Ricky because he always stood up for his cousin no matter how big the opposition was. What did we learn?
Survival tales.
Don't make fun of people just because they're different. Don't rape kids. Or anybody else for that matter. But especially not kids. And don't stand in front of archery targets.
If you like this episode, go to the back catalog and check out more episodes. Also subscribe and hit that notification button so you can be the first to know when a new episode drops. I'll see you guys next time.